Now, to move on here, Mr. Speaker, understand that let's look at a situation. Let me give you an analogy here, Mr. Speaker. Understand in the situations where we would prioritize local, Mr. Speaker, this is where certain industries have already good local presence. Look at our oil and gas, Petronas. We acknowledge Petronas is one of our biggest companies in Malaysia, and that is where the incentive should go to Petronas. But in sectors like semiconductor chips, where there is no local companies that are able to compete with foreign companies, that is where we are going to give incentives towards foreign so that they can come into our country and do knowledge transfers, integrate technologies from outside to help and collaborate and have partnerships with our local firms so that they can actually develop even more. On their side, they're giving money but no guarantee how they are going to use that money efficiently, Mr. Speaker. No guarantee on them driving our country to become a developed nation, Mr. Speaker. Now, moving on here, Mr. Speaker, the burden of proof that side of opposition carries is firstly, to answer the necessity of this meritocratic investment allocation to drive our country to become a developed country. Second, the harms of preferential treatment in allowing investment incentives to local firms, Mr. Speaker. Now, before I move on to my arguments, any POIs?
Note that you agreed to the fact that Malaysia has a low-class manufacturing industry right now, meaning to say our wages are very low. How does on your side of the house, even if you get all these benefits, you get to add like high added value jobs towards the industry?
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think you have to acknowledge that when we are trying to integrate foreign firms coming to our countries, we are having them to partner with our local firms, Mr. Speaker. This creates more jobs, Mr. Speaker. This ensures the development of our companies, Mr. Speaker. This ensures that they get more knowledge transfers and train our local people, Mr. Speaker, to make them become more skillful and more capable workers, Mr. Speaker. We tell you on our side, it's more promising. You suddenly giving money, suddenly there's more jobs, wage increase. It makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. We ask you for a linkage between that, Mr. Speaker. Now, let's move on to the argument here of side of opposition. The danger of complacency. First layer of analysis, what is the complacency, Mr. Speaker? According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, 97% of registered companies in Malaysia are considered as small, medium enterprises. And we understand that they play a huge role in our economy, how they contribute 38% to our GDP, Mr. Speaker. But compared to Singapore, how Singapore's SMEs are already contributing 50% to their GDP, Mr. Speaker. When we see, Mr. Speaker, the growth of Singapore shows 2% in last year. But Malaysia, we have never seen in that growth for over the 5 years, Mr. Speaker. This shows what? This shows that the growth between Singapore and Malaysia is different. We see Singapore is becoming more rapid, Mr. Speaker. Why exactly? Because they integrate foreign firms, Mr. Speaker, to actually collaborate and do partnerships with our local firms, Mr. Speaker. Now, here's the thing, Mr. Speaker. Understand that when you give preferential investment allocation, Mr. Speaker, it creates this comfort zone for our local firms. What does this look like, Mr. Speaker? Second layer of analysis, why is the comfort zone very bad in the first place? We tell you, Mr. Speaker, when you have this allocation of investment incentives, these businesses, these local businesses, won't even feel incentivized to actually work for their businesses, Mr. Speaker, because they rely on the money that the government is giving. There is no development in their own, Mr. Speaker. They are not even putting effort into making sure their company is actually becoming a competent company, Mr. Speaker. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'd be more prouder to oppose. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Apologies for the initial confusion. I'm more nervous than the speakers. But there you have it. Now the first speaker for the opposition. And now thank you, Mr. Zikri Zulfairi Abdul Halim. And now we should call upon the second speaker of the government, Mr. Arif Nazril bin Muhammad Faiz, to deliver his speech. Please welcome.
Panel, the fact that side of opposition here is not willing to bite the bullet and to try to like defend FDIs or foreign direct investments over local firms, we tell you that's the point where they're not able to capitalize on all of the benefits that FDI is able to bring towards this country, which what they are trying to propose to this motion. The fact that they are running a soft case is the very reason why why their benefits are not as like magnified as what they present to you, hence why they cannot win this debate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bid well to the honorable panel of adjudicators, meticulous timekeeper, fellow brethren on side of government, worthy adversaries on opposition, and also members of this majestic parliament. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning I bid to all. In my speech today, I will do a few things. First of all, I will provide you several responses regarding the problematic case coming from side of government, from side of opposition. Secondly, I will prove to you a few issues, a few arguments, and thirdly, I will show to you panel why our side wins and why our side takes the ball, or in this context, the trophy home. Let's take a look at a few responses. Number one, note that on side of opposition, they agreed towards our characterization that Malaysia now is like highly relying upon a manufacturing industry that gives out low wages because they are low skilled. Note that they also conceded to the fact that we need to add high added value jobs. But the case coming from opposition did not even prove to you why this would happen in the first place. They told you there will happen skill transfer and all, but why exactly? What is the logical link between you pulling in FDI or you like not prioritizing FDI or local firms can actually lead towards that? We tell you that's why their benefits cannot materialize. Secondly, on the idea of how they told you we already give preferential treatment to local firms. Why is this not true in the first place? Note that now governments are more prone, or the government is more prone to like pull in more FDI that are for more foreign direct investments. For example, Tesla, or for example Microsoft, because that is, and we tell you that this is not good, because number one, you're not like providing these small companies or local firms an avenue for them, because no, they need these incentives in order to prosper in the first place. But even if that's true, we tell you that it's still not enough. Secondly, on the idea of skill transfer, note that side of opposition agreed to our point about brain drain, meaning to say that when the smartest people in your country go to other countries because there's better opportunities on their side of the house. So then, why exactly won't like skill transfer happen on their side of the house? Number one, companies are most likely going to consolidate the information that they have because they are profit driven. They're not going to teach you like all of these the ins and outs of their businesses. But also secondly, as stated by my first speaker, most likely the foreign companies that are established in our country, their higher ups are most likely expatriates or people from foreign companies. Why? Number one, it is the most logical thing to do because it's easier for you to send someone from HQ from the US that knows the ins and outs of business rather than you like hiring a local person that does not even know your business in the first place. It's the most logical thing to do and they did not even prove to it. But let's take them at their best. Even if skill transfer, let's take them at their best. Everyone gets the skill and everyone knows the ins and outs of Microsoft, for example. Why won't this still happen? Because note that local companies don't have the same amount of like profit or the same amount of capital as like FDIs and foreign investments. Meaning to say, right, if a person that used to work at Microsoft go out and suddenly they want to start a new Microsoft but it's Malaysia based, it will not happen because on their side of the house, they're not giving local firms the avenue that they need for them to prosper. This includes tax incentive, this includes tax rebates. This is not proven by side of opposition whatsoever, and we tell you why their benefits cannot materialize. Thirdly, on the idea of a comfort zone, we tell you why is this not true, because note that local companies, when given the incentive, that's the point where they're going to strive for a better future. That's the point where they know this is the incentive provided by my government, so this is the point that I'm going to turn over, and then they are more incentivized because they want to scale their business and they also want to gain much larger profit. That is why side of opposition falls, but before that, I'll take you.
The way you're painting what opposition is painting here, opposition fighting here, is that we're not giving any incentive towards the local, Mr. Speaker. We tell you we're giving the incentive based on their merit, Mr. Speaker, based on their performance, Mr. Speaker. Okay. So please clarify.
Okay, note that number one, why that is highly problematic, because in order for you to measure merit, right, it's how well the companies are doing. Note that local companies are not doing as well. Why? Because they don't have enough capital. That's why we have to prove to them we need more preferential treatment. On their side of the house, note that most likely than not, the measure of like this meritocracy is most likely going to sway towards FDI or foreign direct investments. Hence, you're actually annihilating the chance of local companies to prosper. Moving on to arguments. Number one, on the idea of how on government, we get more economic diversification. Why is this true? Because note that we have a larger demography of people. Meaning to say, on your side of the house, the money that is needed to attract Tesla, the money that is needed to attract these big companies is a lot. You have to build infrastructure. You have to move your policies in order to pull this. For example, if you want to pull Tesla, you have to make policies that are most likely tech related. That's how you pull Tesla. This requires a lot of resources. And we tell you why this is bad, because this comes at an opportunity cost, meaning the resources that you will have to spend to pull one company or one sector, you can use that money, you can use the fiat in order for you to fund all these sectors that are within the local government or within your local communities. For example, you can fund more money to startups or even small agricultural companies that already have the vision but not enough capital and avenue to prosper in the first place. And why is this good on our side of the house? Because number one, policies will be more inclusive. Why? Because now we're able to fund sectors that are more large. Why exactly are governments going to build policies that are going to industrialize all these sectors rather than one sectors? Because number one, governments have political will, meaning to say that they want to cater towards the people. That's the point, that they're going to move their policies in order to bring the most amounts of benefits towards all these local companies. On your side of the house, the policies are going to be very swayed towards these FDIs, towards these foreign direct investments, meaning to say that all the benefits on your side of the house does not actually trickle down towards the people on the ground or local companies. No, thank you, I'll take you later. Secondly, it's also on the idea of how, on our side of the house, most likely Malaysia is going to be able to withstand economic shocks better, because local companies they're harder to pull their investments out of the country. Why is this true? Because note that, for example, if an economic recession happens on their side of the house, most likely foreign companies are just going to pull their money out from Malaysia. On our side of the house, when local companies are the building blocks of the economy, that's the point where it's harder, because number one, they have their HQ here, they have all their resource and all their workforce in Malaysia. That's the point on our side of the house, and that's the benefit, the exclusive benefit that we get. Secondly, we also get to strengthen ringgit, because number one, we have more products to export. More countries need to buy our products using our currency. Thirdly, on the idea of scalability, on their side of the house, we tell you foreign companies are not going to scale their businesses that much, because number one, they come here for manufacturing. Most likely, they're just going to build factories. On our side of the house, most likely these local companies, they have to build their HQ. They have to build all these necessary buildings in order for them to prosper. We tell you that's why on our side of the house, local companies are better. Second argument, how we can improve the quality of life. Why is this true? We can give higher wages towards local workers. We get more money circulating around. We have higher purchasing power. Secondly, governments are able to tax people more, because when you have higher wages, you can tax people more. That's the point where you can build infrastructure, better roads, and better schools, where this tax money is going to go to. Thirdly, local companies are most likely going to be invested by GLICs, or government-linked investment companies. Large shareholders, for example, Khazanah and PNB. As for example, they own Celcom. That's the point on our side of the house, where you can improve the quality of life and you can trickle down the benefits towards the people on the ground, the people of Malaysia. So if you want a world, or if you want a Malaysia where the citizens are subjected towards better living conditions and better economic diversification, side with government. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Second Speaker of the Government, Mr. Arif Nazril Muhammad Faiz. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to listen to the second speaker from the opposition, Mr. Muhammad Isaac Goh bin Muhammad Rizal Goh. Please welcome.
Yeah. What the government side is actually proposing today is a very unfair status quo, a painting that does not actually even exist in the first place in today's status quo at all. Before I continue on, Assalamualaikum a bit to everyone in today's hall here today, to Madam Speaker, honorable adjudicators, towards worthy adversaries, and also towards my fellow teammates in the set of opposition here today. I'll be doing two very simple things. Number one, I'm going to be giving out to you
my refutations and rebuttals towards what both speakers from the government side has stated so far. And secondly, I'm going to give out to you my argumentations to further prove to you the reasoning on why we should win today's debate. All right, without wasting any more time, let us begin with what they have stated so far. All right, a few mistakes with their case so far, right? Firstly, where does this money even come from in the first place? This question has been answered very weakly. They say that this money comes from foreign firms. We're going to take away this investment incentives from foreign firms and suddenly put it into local companies. We tell you that it's not that simple. We tell you that this money actually comes from what we call capital expenditure. It is a short form known as CAPEX, right? So then, this is where we take it from. And now, what government needs to do right now, what they need to prove to us, is how this limited capital expenditure, let me give you some statistics, 19 billion ringgit only, what government needs to do is prove to us that this allocation, our limited allocation, is actually going to give us benefit at the end of the day. This has not been answered by the side of government. Why are we wasting our capital expenditure when we could invest it in foreign firms, which can provide us with a higher GDP and higher capital growth? To continue on, right, is when they talk about the first speaker point about creation and innovation, is it necessarily achievable by prioritizing local firms, right? We need to remember that what set of government is proposing right now is essentially what we call a protectionist policy, by completely removing a lot of these foreign firms and suddenly saying, yes, you cannot be here, you must go out, and we will not invest in you anymore, even if you do want to come in. That is what we call a protectionist policy. It is very extreme, right? We tell you that we need to realize that our local firms, right, is already given so much preferential treatment, right? We tell you that there's things such as SME banks and GLC development plans, which are aimed to give more preferential to increase to make these local firms way better at the end of the day. There is so much preferential. And what the government needs to prove to us right now is how by giving them more preferential treatment, by going more towards this protectionist policy, is actually going to even give us the benefit at the end of the day. Not stated yet by the side of government, right? And now towards the second speaker, they talk about how our current local companies, if in our current system, in opposition's counter mechanism, when we talk about meritocracy, they say how it's unachievable. But it's very unfair to paint a picture where our local firms are completely useless. We tell you that we have GLCs, we have GLICs, and we also have our Petronas. We tell you that we're not completely useless in a lot of sectors. We still can compete. This investment incentive in our work can still be given towards our local firms. And this is also, not to mention, our policy, our philosophy on a high growth, high value. We tell you that we look upon the records and see if they have potential or not. That is another way on how we determine if we should invest in them or not. That is what side of opposition wants to provide to you today. Okay, now going on into my argumentations, right? I have two arguments that I wish to give out to you right now. First one, under the key contention of exacerbating market distortion, and secondly, under the key contention of promoting competitiveness and innovation. All right, let us begin with my first argumentation. You can sit down for now. First level of analysis. What are the types of markets that we have identified so far? The types of markets that we have identified is where governments do not give preferential treatment, right? For example, Singapore and Hong Kong. These are markets what we consider as great. Why? Because companies are on equal footing and they are forced to be competitive with each other to get the attention, market share, and it also requires them to be innovative in their own products. And this makes them industry leaders in the global markets because of how competitive they are at the end of the day. This is good because it drives a lot of economical growth and repatriates cash and revenue into the country forever. It is good to mention that these type of markets have a good balance of both local and foreign investments at the end of the day. Second type of market is one when there is preferential treatment, right? For example, Malaysia and Indonesia. Government spends capital to inflate the competitiveness of local firms to compete with foreign firms. And this is not sustainable because, like I stated just now, that our capital expenditure is limited. In the long run, this expenditure will increase and the people who will be affected are the consumers and the people of our own nation. Second layer of analysis. What happens when we add investment incentives? But first of all, what is a market distortion? Market distortion is when the government tries to influence the supply and demand of the market, right? So when we put preferential treatment and investment incentives on local firms in Malaysia, it distorts the market. How so? The market wants to reach a state where it's going towards the high value, towards the good valued companies, right? The companies that are doing the best. But then suddenly government is coming here and telling us that we need to alter our direction. We need to alter our direction towards our local firms, which might not be the best for our country, because that is what the market says so. Anything that our market says is correct is the best for our economy. Why is this bad at the end of the day? When the market is distorted, local firms are getting more preferential treatment, right? Foreign firms are disincentivized to stay in Malaysia because they have a disadvantage in the ground of the in the market, right? So they leave to other hotspots, for example, Indonesia or even Thailand. We tell you that this is known as the crowding out effect, and that this will lead to even more negative effects. Less innovation because there will be less innovation because foreigners do not come to Malaysia. There will be no technology or skill transfer at the end of the day. Why? Because we are not that friendly to Malaysia. Our image as a centralist country is deteriorated, and they see that we focus on local firms, so they leave because they are at a disadvantage. This does not lead to crowding out effect does not lead to a developed nation, which the government said wants so much. Second argument, promoting competitiveness and innovation. How is our counter mechanism better, right? What is our counter mechanism? Meritocracy. How we focus on high growth, high value. We see that when there is high potential, right? When it fulfills the 5 criteria stated by my leader of opposition, we tell you that positive repercussions towards local, foreign, and consumers happen. This is the micro scale of things. Let's go into it. On the micro level of things, when we implement our mechanism, there will be a company which gets these investment incentives, but it's not like all of the others cannot compete. Remember, we get rid of the preferential treatment. They're all on equal footing now. So that means they actually have to work to actually get these investment incentives. They have to work to get the things that the government wants to give them. What does this lead to? It leads to innovation and competitiveness because they have to fight each other instead of relying solely on the government for their dependency. Second, and now let's go on into the macro level of things, right? When we enlarge the scope, we see that all this competitiveness and innovation is spreading across the country. We can also develop our critical sectors like semiconductors by allocating more incentives, by giving them more reason to actually innovate in that sector, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, investors will also be more attracted to Malaysia because our economy is moving. With that, I've never been prouder to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Isaac Go. We shall now call upon the third speaker from the government. Please welcome Mr. Muhammad Haiman Ang bin Haidar Zafri to deliver his rebuttals.
Aman.
It is such a shame that opposition is trying to say that our local people can't succeed. When we send people, when we give people scholarships to go study in the US, when people are able to get information and people are able to have the information to be able to succeed in their own local businesses, it is such a shame the opposition is trying to say that they cannot. And realize that when they say they cannot succeed, they did not even give you reasons why they cannot succeed. This debate is not about whether foreign companies are important or not. This debate is about whether local companies or foreign companies is going to be better. I believe that opposition is not even trying to clash the debate. Opposition is not even engaging with our arguments in the first place. Before that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I beg to the esteemed panel of adjudicators, my worthy opponents from the side of opposition, my beloved teammates from the side of government, and to the member of this august hall. I have 2 things to do. Number 1, I'm going to rebut the previous speaker before this, and secondly, I'm going to resolve issues inside this debate. Firstly, on the rebuttals of my previous speaker, what did he say? He said that we are going to a protectionist policy. This is completely not true. We didn't say that we are not completely going to allow foreign investors to come in. Foreign investors can still come in, but we are not going to give them tax breaks. They still have the incentive to invest in Malaysia. Secondly, what did they say? They say that we already have preferential treatment like GLC plans and Petronas. Okay, let me get this clear. Their policy is they want to have a meritocratic system. So why is this problematic? Because when you have a meritocratic system, it means then that foreign companies and local companies has to compete with each other. This means that local companies cannot even get any of the investment incentives. Why? Because if you want to look into meritocratic system, it is based on performance. So how can you say that local companies can compete with companies such as Microsoft, companies such as Dell, that of course government is going to give them investment incentives? We say that on their side of the house, there is going to be disproportionate investment incentives towards foreign companies. They need to say that. And these investment incentives towards foreign companies also takes in a lot of resources from the government itself. They take in a lot of resources from state welfare. They take in resources. They also give resources. They cannot be convenient in that. What did they say? They say that it is going to increase competition in the local market. Two responses. Number one, okay, fine, we say that foreign companies are able to compete, but the reason why it's problematic is because these companies has disproportionately more market capital. They are able to have a big consumer base. What happens then is they are going to monopolize on the market. Local companies unable to compete at all on their side of the house. They're unable to have any sort of competition within local companies. But secondly, we say that government side also have competition, because when we have preferential treatment, this is when local companies are going to compete against other local companies. This is when the best local companies have the incentive to innovate. The best local companies have the incentive to get preferential treatment. And the third rebuttal is towards their very problematic, and I don't even understand the argument on the distortion of market. Look, judges, they cannot simply give complicated arguments about distortion of market without actually explaining what the market actually means. They did not even explain why foreign companies has the ability to create high-skilled jobs. That is the whole case on government side, and they did not even give any engagement towards that. That is shameful on side of opposition. First question then is, which side is able to is allowed to make sure that locals are able to succeed? What did they say? They say that they are able to get partnerships with the local companies because apparently you are able to have knowledge transfer. I have two responses to this. Number one, we say that they are not going to transfer their skills. Why? Because foreign companies already patent their products. That's to say, the innovation inside Microsoft chips, the innovation inside the IT of foreign companies unable to be replicated because the ownership and rights of this innovation are completely owned by these foreign companies. But secondly, we say that government actually gets better skill transfer. Why? Because on government side, when we have preferential treatment, we're able to allocate money for scholarships for local companies. We're able to create public-private partnerships from other local companies. Local companies do have an avenue to have competition, do have an avenue to get the knowledge that they want to have. So what is the comparative? Okay, we know that both sides have the knowledge that we need for us to develop our local people. But the difference is on our side of the house, these local companies are able to be supported by government. These local companies are able to get grants, are able to get tax breaks, are able to get capital for them to compete against the big competitors that you want to so much glorify. But why can locals necessarily succeed? And this moves on to my next point, is we say that we already have examples of successful local companies, such as AirAsia, where AirAsia is not only going towards airlines, they also are going into cargo, they are also going towards hotels. We say that successful companies such as Aerodyne, they has created drones, and Carsum and Cellcom, local companies, which are regional playmakers inside our country today. These are examples of successful local companies that they want to deny. You say that you cannot alter history. This has already happened. But the difference is, when we give preferential treatment, we get more of these companies to be even more successful. We are able to uplift the betterment of you are able to uplift the quality of life of our people of Malaysia today. So why are we able to succeed? Because they say that they don't want to innovate, and okay. But if we say that of course they want to innovate, because if we give them professional treatment, this is when they have the ability to innovate, they have the capacity to take in risk and reward for that. Before that, POI.
Which one of us? All right. So let's go back to the first basic point that you said that you just deviated easily. You said without incentives, somehow foreign direct investments will still come. And without incentives, you say there is incentive. Can you just explain to me what is the incentive that you say exists without having that?
Firstly, thank you, because I'm going to go straight into my point. Number one, they say that we are going to experience capital flight. They say that foreign companies are going to leave our country. Two reasons why this is not true. Number one, we have other incentives for foreign companies to come in. We say that Malaysia has irreplaceable materials such as gallium in the production of microchips. We are located in the middle of a global trade law. Of course, foreign companies are still going to enter our market today. But the difference is we are not going to give tax cuts. We are also going to get in the tax that we don't give tax cuts for, and we are able to spend it on welfare. And what do they say? The second rebuttal is about the leader of opposition, where he said that 97% of jobs are from local companies, but there is no growth. That's the reason why we need to uplift local companies. If 97% of the population depends on local jobs, if 97% of the local companies contribute towards the GDP, that is why we need to focus on local companies. If you focus on foreign companies, it takes only 3% of the GDP. It's not really that convenient. But secondly, you talk about how you are going to create a comfort zone, how businesses, this is not true. Why? Because businesses want to improve. The problem is they don't have the capacity to do that. So how does this debate go? We say that because of the lack of engagement towards outside of the house. We told you that foreign companies do not create high-skilled jobs. No responses. They say that we are able to create economic diversification. No response. With that, I'm very proud to propose.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Haiman bin Haidar Zafri. And now it is time to listen to the rebuttals of the third speaker from the opposition, Mr. Halikuzaman Razinuddin Bazli Shah bin Kutubul Zaman Awaluddin Shah. Please welcome.
You're here. This thing? All right. A very good day to all members of the floor here today. Mama once said, shoot for the moon, aim for the stars. Well, Mama, look where I'm at. I'm against star. First of all, in my speech here today, in the motion, this House believes that government must give preferential treatment to local firms when allocating investment incentives. I believe that side of government here have failed to proven the main thing that they have to prove, which is towards a developed nation. How does this motion even drive you, put you on that road, that roadmap, towards that tree? Where are we even linking towards this motion and the end goal that they never even gave into this debate? I, as the whip of opposition, three main things, very simple things I have to execute here today. Point out the issues on side of government. What have they failed to provide you here today? Second of all, the main clashes of today's debate. Lastly, why should opposition's case still stand and why this motion shall fall? Without wasting any time, my first point here today, the issues in today's debate. In the first speaker, he says that Malaysia is a country, is a nation that heavily relies on foreign investment, on foreign companies. But then in his next line, he basically says we're going to push away all the incentives for foreign direct investment in the hopes that the nation in itself can stand alone. You're saying that right now Malaysia is standing on crutches of the FDIs, you're throwing it away and they'll fall down. You don't see that. The fact is, the side of government does not realize the adverse effect, the adverse side effects of today's motion. They try to play a protectionist role here today, trying to say that they play the sentimental value where they push the burden towards our side of opposition, saying that we undermine the Malaysian the Malaysian market, the Malaysian capacity, the Malaysian capability. No, we're not saying that. We're saying that we need help. We understand that we need help. We understand that these people in Malaysia have the skills. What they do not have is access towards those jobs. They do not have access towards creating and actually entering that job, which is why the side of government already stated, brain drain. The fact is that our own skill set, our own people with skills go out of the country because they don't see anything promising in the country, which is why we need to have foreign direct investment. We need to allow the foreign skills, the foreign companies, foreign jobs to allow to open up the spillover effect, to ensure that there is actual jobs that our own skilled people can enter to actually path into. That's what you don't understand. Another issue I see here today is that, right, already stated by my first speaker, 30 years, 3 decades have we been using the same thing here today, preferential treatment. We've been doing that for the past 3 decades. What is different now? We don't actually answer that into this motion, into this debate at all. Sure, you can say all the good things, right? Like let's say somehow, sure, no logical links given by the side of government, but I'll give you a chance. The fact is, yes, you say that that FDIs will consolidate information and somehow there is no transfer of skill. But I would like to say that that is why agencies like MITI and MIDA exist. These agencies for development agencies for investments, I'll take it later, don't worry. The fact is that these agencies allow subcontracts to allow to happen. Sure, these people not only just build the headquarters, but they also allow for, let's say, 15% of the people hired in that country is local, and these people in the country are actually given jobs. The fact is that you don't understand that these agencies already exist. They are pre-existing, and this is the incentives that we give to not just local, but to also foreign direct investment. And yes, your point. Yeah.
Note that Apple has been in Malaysia for decades long, and we still don't have a smartphone company that's able to compete with Apple. So how does you argue on skill transfer? How certain are you that these big FDIs are going to skill transfer towards local companies at the end of the day?
Okay, one simple answer. Another example that I can give you is you gave off an example of AirAsia. Let's look at Mas, Malindo, and Batik Air. These companies in Malaysia, right, local made, are already stated by my first speaker, complacent. They depended on the fact that they were given incentives, they were given grants and loans. The fact is that these companies went bankrupt because of the complacency. Then who saved them? Yayasan Khazanah. This company bought them and created portfolios for these companies, for these portfolios. They revived them. After 6 years, only did we see Mas actually gain some revenue back. After 6 years of zero revenue, of zero net profit. The fact is that these companies have complacency. Sure, it may have taken 6 years. And another point that I'd like to point out is, I've given you a simple POI. You say that without incentives given by the government, somehow the incentives is already enough because of rare earth materials. So does Thailand, so does Indonesia. All these other countries also have rare earth materials and they're also giving incentives. Why should these companies go out of their way to a country that does not have incentives, that does not give them the extra step to allow that bridge that gap, and somehow you say, without any logical links, that these companies will come to Malaysia? They won't. Sure. And let's take a look at an example. Tesla, we already give them a huge amount of incentives, and they stay pulled out even after they promised us how many $1 billion. And I'll take it later, don't worry. The fact is that these companies, even when we give, even in your world, you're already giving us very hard, breaking the backs of Malaysians, right? You're saying that somehow these Malaysian companies can stand on their own. And to go on to my clashes in today's debate, right, like I stated, sorry, before I go on to my clashes, one final point on issue. I see that the side of opposition somehow want to immediately fully prioritize. Like I stated at the start of my speech, you're basically saying that Malaysia is heavily reliant. I want to push this fact some more, that they're heavily reliant on investment incentives from the foreign investments, right? But somehow you're going to push that away, saying that, yes, now Malaysia can somehow stand alone. That point has never been proven. And now to go on to my clashes, right? Like I've stated, the clash is simple. We've given you, on side of opposition, one simple thing. We say that there's complacency. We say that, sure, in your world, you may say that you want to grant these high-level jobs, these high-value jobs, right? And these high-skilled jobs towards these workers. We say that does not happen because of the fact that not only do you not prove it how it happens, the fact that somehow when you give money, you're saying that these companies will grow. No, the step that they need is not just capital. The step that they need is also that one extra step to enter that globalization era. The fact is that these companies do not have the access towards the cross-border effect. They cannot spill over to the
to the other companies. How will these companies even grow in the first place? Just by giving them money. They need skill sets, they need the knowledge, they need that connection to bridge that gap between Malaysians and the rest of the world. If you're going to close off your countries by privatization, who's going to enter? I already stated, companies are not going to enter Malaysia because of the fact that you're protecting your local market so much. The fact is that, and another point I see is that side of government try to point out that there is enough local competition, and that is enough. The fact is that you don't need, they have competition on their side too, which is local competition. Like I stated, relating to my point, how is local competition going to be enough? If all of them are subpar level, then the competition they have is going to be subpar. The fact is that you need to have the pro level or the level of, let's say, companies outside that can give them the real level of competition. Because if you're going to baby them forever, give them that subpar level of competition, then expose them to the international market, which has billions of dollars of investments, all these expenditures, trillions, right? Then Malaysian can't compete. They can only compete in our country, just like Brazil on how they protected their own car company so much. The fact is that suddenly their car can only compete only in their own country, but cannot expand over their own borders, which is a sad sight to see, which we do not want on Malaysian grounds. What is opposition saying here today? We want to carry that burden for Malaysians. Yes, we understand we need to bite that bullet, but understand that sometimes you have to realize that we need help. The first cry, the first realization to being better is realization. We realize that Malaysia has a few steps that, to the staircase of globalization, to the staircase of developed nation, we need a few steps that can only be filled by who? Foreign direct investments. Can only filled by who? Foreign companies. This is where opposition stands here. We tell you, we need that gap. We need that bridge to bridge that gap. We've given you how. We've given you where. We've given you why exactly. Explicitly have we explained under very simple points. Agencies that exist, subcontracts. We tell you also the fact is that we have that good balance. We need that balance. Over prioritization will only lead to what? The fact is that you can only compete locally. And with that, I've never been more proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid Kuzaman Razinuddin Bazli Shah. Kutu Zaman Awaluddin Shah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the substantive speeches. Now let us take a short recess for 3 minutes. Afterwards, we shall begin with the reply speech from the representatives from the opposition.
So I think on the idea of FDIs pulling out, they have never proved to us why this is. Why this is. The only reason they masuk sini is because of inflation. Orang expect market dia nak sell their products. They have never proved to us.
And now I would like to invite Mr. Zikri Zufairi bin Abdul Halim from the opposition to deliver his reply speech.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Madam Speaker, you might be wondering why exactly ASIS is here wearing all full black blazers, Madam Speaker. Actually, we're here to commemorate the funeral of side of government because of how faulty, how deep they dig their own grave, Madam Speaker. And we see that they are progressing backwards. With our side, we prove to you how we're progressing our country towards a developed nation, Madam Speaker. Let's look at how the grave that they have dug for themselves, 6 foot under. Speaking of 6 foot, 6 problems that they have brought to the debate here. First problem, regarding of the source of incentives. They say they're going to take from foreign and give it to local. So they are completely going full protectionist, Madam Speaker. We tell you, in their definition alone, they said that a developed country has diverse economy, variety, Madam Speaker. That's the key word. So that means you must have the collaboration, the partnerships between local and foreign. This is what complements each other, Madam Speaker. You here suddenly trying to put all of it, giving it all to local, and you suddenly hope for the best that they'll somehow improve. This is something that is not clear on their side, Madam Speaker. Second problem, investment incentive. We've proven to you, we've told you that how we already have investment incentives through small, medium enterprise banks, how we're already giving out grants and loans. On their side, they haven't proven to us how it is new, Madam Speaker. We've been doing it for 30 years, and 30 years we're still in the same state, Madam Speaker. So what exactly is new on their side? How exactly is the same mechanism on their side going to bring our country to become a developed nation? Not proven on their side. Third problem, regarding guarantee, Madam Speaker. Here's the thing, when you want to give these incentives that you stole from foreign, right? You stole from foreign, you want to give to the local. What is the guarantee that those small startups, like the auntie selling curry puffs by the side of the road, right? What is the guarantee that they can bring return to the company rather than you giving those incentives to Google, to Intel, or even GLCs like Petronas, TNB, AirAsia? Madam Speaker, we tell you, we're giving it based off meritocracy. We're not giving it based off just because you're a local, you get this incentive. We give you based on your contribution to the economy. This is what we want. We promote better growth in the economy, Madam Speaker. Fourth problem, regarding the evaluation of a company. Look, they suddenly assume that just because we have foreign and local, obviously foreign is going to give more merit. However, that's not true. Look at the mechanism that we proposed in my speech earlier. We have 5 key merits to determine how contributing a company is. Human capital development. Not just because a company performs well, have more profit, like a foreign company, local companies can have more human capital development, Mr. Speaker. We tell you that there is situations where local still outperform foreign, Mr. Speaker. We tell you, at the end of the day, both foreign and local receive incentives, not on their side. Only one thing, Mr. Speaker. Going on to the 5th problem, understand that suddenly they want to take all the incentives away from foreign and still expect them to come over. Here's the thing. What if you tell us that Malaysia is strategic, why don't go to Singapore, which actually provides incentive in the first place, Madam Speaker? 6th problem, no knowledge transfers. They said that these foreign companies pattern their knowledge. Madam Speaker, they open job opportunities and they offer it to locals. So when I, as a local, go work into a foreign company, obviously I'm going to learn something new, Madam Speaker. That is the knowledge transfer. No matter they pattern or not, they are opening jobs to local, Madam Speaker. What have we, opposition, brought to you? We brought to you a mechanism. It is based on meritocracy. We're giving it to those who can perform better, not on them. Just because you're local, we're giving it to you. Hopefully, you're going to help bring our country to become a developed nation. We give it to both and local firms. They give it to only locals without any guarantee. We've proven to you how we are better. And please, side with the side that actually cares for our future, Mr. Speaker. We tell you that our side can promise to you that developed status. Thank you very much. Glad to oppose.
Thank you, Mr. Zikri Zufairi bin Abdul Halim from the opposition. I shall now call upon Mr. Arif Nazril bin Muhammad Faiz from the government, the Deputy Prime Minister, to deliver his reply.
I find it quite ironic that side of opposition says that they're attending a funeral, while I believe that the person inside the coffin is supposed to wear all black, while we prefer all blue. Now, a few things in my speech today. Number one, a few call-outs. Secondly, a few strategical observations. And thirdly, why our side wins debate. Number one, let's take a look at a few strategical observations. They told you that it's been almost 30 years since Malaysia has been in the upper high income category. Meaning to say that within these 30 years, we have always prioritized FDI. So why are you going to still prioritize them even if it doesn't even bring enough capital at the end of the day? Secondly, right, we tell you that note that side of opposition needs to tie the debate back to Malaysia. How does their benefits help Malaysia's and Malaysia's context? Note that they agreed to us that Malaysia now has low skilled and low wage jobs. You have to realize that side of opposition did not even prove to you or did not even give the logical links as to why FDI or foreign investments will provide high added value jobs. They basically debated on the idea of why FDI is good, but did not even tie it to Malaysia as a whole. We tell you that's why their benefits cannot materialize. And secondly, it's also on the idea of how their whole case and benefits are actually contingent on the idea of meritocracy. Why is this very problematic in the first place? Note that we tell you that meritocracy, most likely than not, if you're going to value them by their performance, it's going to be more likely swayed towards these foreign investments because they are better. They told you no, they told you they have 5 merits or criteria. Number one, human capital. We tell you human capital, most likely than not, these foreign investments are going to give more human capital because they have the capital to do so. They have better living in working conditions, and they also have better pay. So to the fact that side of opposition does not want to actually do this, we tell you that you're not actually going to include these local firms when you are trying to develop a nation, hence why on your side fails. Now, let's take a look at what has opposition done wrong. Let's take a look, number one. The main push coming from opposition is on the idea of skill transfer, how they can get foreign to come in, our people learn, and suddenly we can actually get those knowledge transfer. But why is this very problematic? They also agreed to the idea on brain drain, right? Mean to say that the smartest people in your country are going to go out. So how does this tie? Note that when a person learns, for example, learns the ins and outs of Microsoft, and when he leaves, he wants to build a new company. Without the proper avenue and the preferential treatment given by government, that's the point where these people that has already learned all this knowledge from Microsoft fly out of the country, go establish a company somewhere else. On their side of the house, they don't even prove to you why this doesn't happen in the first place. That's why skill transfer does not actually happen on their side of the house, because you don't provide these locals an avenue for them to actually prosper and to develop. Secondly, the biggest rebuttal on their side of the house is how capital flight will happen. Or for example, when you don't give preferential treatment towards foreign direct investments, that's the point where they're going to pull out. Number one, they did not even prove to you why exactly these incentives are the most important thing to pull FDI. But secondly, we tell you, we already have other incentives as stated by my third speaker. Malaysia is in the middle of the global trade route. We have also these materials that are more cheaper on our side of the house. That's also a good enough incentive. And a good enough example of this is Mitsubishi, where now they don't actually get preferential treatment, but these are still in Malaysia. And also the fact that they have built all this infrastructure, they have invested all this money inside Malaysia. Suddenly when they don't have the incentives, that's not a good enough reason for them to pull out. Most likely they're not, they're still going to stay inside the country. Number three, they told you about how on our side of the house, we're going to create a comfort zone for these local companies. You're not going to innovate and be better. Number one, we tell you that on your side of the house, you're going to create monopolization. On our side of the house, we tell you these companies actually have the incentive because they want to scale their business. They want to move into other countries that are going. That's the point where they're going to have innovations even more. But why is it better on our side of the house? Because we tell you we can get better workers when these companies are able to prove or give high added value jobs. That's the point where people stay in our country. This will be my last speech as a debater representing Scholar Tuanku Abdul Rahman. So for the final time, if you want a side that wants to progress Malaysia and also the locals that are subjected towards better living conditions, side with government. Never have I ever been prouder to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arif Nazril bin Muhammad Faiz. And with that, this is the end of the debate session. Congratulations to the participating teams. The session is adjourned.
Dan seterusnya dipersilakan Johan Pertandingan Akhir Bahas Piala Perdana Menteri kali ke-49. Sekolah Menengah Sains Alam Shah. Bersama-sama Tuan Pengetua, Guru Pengiring dan para pembahas untuk tampil menerima hadiah. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, itulah dia Johan. Pertandingan akhir bahas Piala Perdana Menteri kategori Bahasa Inggeris. Sekolah Menengah Sains Alam Shah. Seterusnya kita akan umumkan pembahas terbaik.